Welcome back to the Ben Mulroney Show, and thanks for sticking with us because we are continuing our conversation with Gordon Lownes, the founder of Sleep Country Canada, who has written a new memoir entitled Cracking Up, an unlikely addict's memoir, from rising star to junkie despair in 1,000 days. Gordon, thank you so much for sticking with us, and thank you so much for this honest conversation. We appreciate it.
Okay, thank you.
So let's continue. So you're now in the throes of this addiction, which lasted 1,000 days. You said before the break that you were trolling the streets of some of the darkest parts of Vancouver, all while building a business. Like, the business was new and it was successful, but it requires constant attention. I've been part of a number of startups. I know how hard founders have to work. So talk to me about juggling these two lives.
So my role at Sleep Country was primarily doing the real estate deals, marketing, advertising. And so I wasn't running the day-to-day business actively with all of the people in the company. And that basically fell to Christine McGee.
Christine McGee, of course, I remember her from the commercials.
Yep. So she was running the day-to-day stuff. So, and again, you probably heard the term high-functioning addict.
Yeah.
So I was an extremely high-functioning addict. So I was basically still working.
What was a 24-hour day like for you?
Oh, let me describe a week.
Okay.
So I probably partied from Friday until Monday. On Monday, I intended to go to work, but I didn't quite make it out the door. So I had to get in on Tuesday. On Monday, I would have been doing some work over the online, so I didn't have to show up. And then Tuesday through Friday, it was like a 12, 13, 14-hour day. And we were opening in Vancouver, or in Ontario at the time. We were opening in Alberta, so I was on planes going here and there. And when I was completely messed up and I couldn't show up anywhere, I would tell people in Toronto that I was in Seattle. I would tell the people in Calgary that I was in Toronto. And it was like a white knuckle charade, is what it was. But I kept things going.
With your family on the other side of the country, what did they know about the state of affairs of your life?
Absolutely nothing.
Nothing.
So as I said, I had divorced. So I did see my daughter once in a while. She was 14 or so at the time. But again, I was able to get clean and stay clean for 2 or 3 days at a time without any sort of visible
no withdrawal
problem.
symptoms or anything like that.
No.
Okay.
No. Cocaine gets out of your system basically within 72 hours. So you can appear normal, and until you have the craving and the compulsion to go back and get high again. So
Gordon, describe rock bottom for me. What was the moment where there was no other way to fix your life but to change it completely?
So the girlfriend had gone back to Seattle, so I was on my own for about the last year of my using. Things were, I probably started using more without her there. And I got to the point in May of 1998 where I couldn't keep up the charade anymore. It was too stressful, and I didn't think I could pull it off without somebody finding out that I was messed up. So I took a leave of absence from the company. Steve Gunn, who had been my longtime business partner and was working in the Ontario operation, took over my role. And I told him I had some health problems and I'd be back in September on Labor Day. And I thought with 3 months time without any stress and any problems, I could get myself sorted out.
Yeah.
And I ended up just using more and more and more. My bottom was just sitting there, waking up every morning, basically saying, if I keep doing this, I'm going to die, but I don't know what else that I can do.
Well, let's move in.
Eventually I broke down.
Oh, go on.
So I broke down and called Steve, my partner, 2 days after Labor Day, and basically broke down and told him that I had a problem with the cocaine. And he basically, I thought he was going to really be upset with me. But he said, look, we don't want to lose you. What can we do to help? And so a combination of him and my best friend came out to Vancouver the next morning. and stayed with me for 3 days to detox me. I went to Toronto, stayed with Steve and his family for a couple of days, and then he got me into treatment at Bellwood Center in Toronto.
And
I
this
was
is
there
where
for 3 months.
this is where I want our conversation to conclude, is that, you know, there are a lot of people out there on the outside looking in who assume that in order for addiction to be overcome, one has to treat it a very particular way, you know, a 12-step program, appreciation of a higher power, and all of that stuff. What is your take on that?
What I learned in treatment, and it certainly applies to me, is that a combination of treatment philosophies is frequently the best approach. So I was, you know, very, very active in the 12-step program for quite a few years after I got clean and sober. I had the benefit of meeting a doctor at Bellwood who's also a psychiatrist who specialized in addictions. And I stayed in his treatment care for about 5 or 6 years after I got clean and sober. And what I've found, and the favorite line in my book, that if I can quote it for you,
Please,
is that the common factor among us addicts and alcoholics is that we have a latent disorder or two that comes bubbling to the surface like a fart in the bathtub when we stop drinking and drugging.
yeah.
So when you get rid of the drugs and alcohol, you know, many of us have got some mental health issues.
Yeah.
And mental health issues, I think, you know, are best solved with professional psychological or psychiatry kinds of treatment.
Yeah, they say,
because you can't.
They say
you can't
that
get that in a 12-step program.
Yeah, they say that the worst day for an alcoholic isn't while they're drunk. It's that day where they finally, the veil of alcohol is lifted, and they're able to, with sober eyes, see the damage and the wreckage of their life. And it's what they do in that moment, because they can either use that as an excuse to go back, or they can fight through. And that's really the test. And I'm glad you said that, because, you know, off the top, I said there are so many different reasons for which addiction takes hold. And I've always found it interesting that there are those out there who feel that there is one and only one way to get clean. If you understand there's one way, there's so many different ways to find your way to drugs, and there must be so many different ways to find your way off of it. I've got to ask, what did your family think when they finally learned the truth, and why did you decide now is the time to share your story?
So my last week in treatment, the doctors have been telling me I really need to come clean and tell my daughter and my ex-wife what my problem was. So I went and had dinner with them. As soon as I uttered the words I was a crack addict, my daughter, who was 14 at the time, completely broke down, ran out of the room and said she never wanted to talk to me again. And my wife basically, said, "You're a bastard, get out," kind of thing. So, so a good part of my recovery and a good part of the reason that I waited so long to publish this is that I was concerned about, my story basically doing more damage with my family and my friends, and also the potential collateral damage it might have in terms of the reputation of Sleep Country.
And I only have about 30 seconds left, but can you let me know what is the state of your family today?
It's wonderful. My 1-year anniversary, my ex-wife was there, my business partner was there, my daughter was there. It's taken a long time to rebuild the trust of my daughter. And what I was told in treatment, and it's worked out, is you have to work at it every day and never, ever, ever let her down again. And now I'm living with her.
Gordon Lownes, that last, what you just said there, touched me so deeply. And I'm so glad to have had this conversation with you. And I'm so glad that we can share it across the country on this show. I really do thank you for being so honest and so candid. The book is called Cracking Up. Gordon Lownes is the author and the man who lived the story. I wish you nothing but the best as you move forward with your life, sir.
Okay, I really appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you very much. Wow. Well, thank you for joining us today. It has been a heck of a show. You can keep the conversation going with us on Twitter, on all social media platforms, and we'll post the podcast, and we'll see you tomorrow. Thanks so much for watching the show. Now, if you enjoyed what you saw, hit that subscribe button so you never miss another episode of The Ben Mulroney Show.